Greetings Internet, and welcome back for the final video of 2022 from yours truly. It's been one of those weird kind of years. A lot of stuff has happened, and just there are things that I'm thankful for, there are things that I'm not so thankful for. Good things, bad things. Any usual year, there's either more good than bad, more bad than good, or you might get lucky and have one that's just like in flux, where it's like good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, the entire year, and just kind of levels itself out. So, for this particular video, to cap off the year 2022, I have decided that I'm going to take a page from the playbook of a bunch of other different YouTubers that, put out videos around this time of year, and I'm going to do a top 5 things that I've picked up this year. Now, these things are going to be in no particular order. It's not like I've got one thing above all the others that's like my absolute favorite thing, which is technically a lie. There are a couple of things that are like that, but, that's not important to the story. So, if you noticed by the title down below, that's what we're going to be doing today. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm going to be doing my best to, make it entertaining for y'all like I usually do. With that said, unlike my usual rambling where I just take like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to get a video started, especially when it comes to my food videos, we're just going to jump right on into this thing, because it's taken me an unreasonable amount of time to actually figure out an intro for this stupid video. With that said though, let's see, what's going to be the first thing? Because I have the things I'm going to talk about, but like I said, there's no particular order. So I'm going to get the least impressive thing out of the way first, at least least impressive for y'all, which is going to be this videotape. So as most of y'all should be familiar with a particular video that I posted back during the Halloween season, The Horror of Moldy Tapes, I picked up a massive box of videotapes, mostly, stuff like this, recorded off TV, sold as blank VHS cassettes. And I've been working my way gradually through actually cleaning them up and getting all the mold off of the cassettes and, getting them to actually be playable again. And I'm going to admit something. I've been really taking my time with them. The stack of tapes I've been working with is right there on the floor, and including this one. I have cleaned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've only cleaned like 15 out of that box of like 50 video cassettes, so I'm way behind and I need to get back on that. Anyway, getting back to the cassette in question. Now, y'all may be asking yourselves, why that particular tape? You've got all those other tapes, you've got all those collectibles, all those fancy fun things we've been looking at all year, and for the last several. Why a weird old videotape? Well, it's not the cassette itself, it's what this cassette contains. For those of my watchers who've been actually watching during my Oxmas season, the very first video that I recorded and uploaded for this season was about the special on this tape, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Now, the reason why that makes this cassette special is because, as you might recall, the special is on this tape, and the reason why this particular copy of that special is so important to me is because of the fact that, well, this particular version, or at least the version it reminds me of, is basically the one that I grew up with as a kid, and just that particular version holds a lot of nostalgic memories for me. Like, one thing in particular is that this was one of my mother's favorite Jim Henson specials, one of her favorite holiday specials. And as I said in that video, the particular version that we had was recorded by her back when I was a child. And the original cassette tape that I had, along with a bunch of other childhood recordings of old TV shows and movies and stuff, went the way of the dinosaur and became lost to time for me. It didn't really register to me so much how much I was going to miss that particular special until I found this. So, I think I already said this, I'm a little emotional right now, so my thoughts aren't quite clear at this exact moment in time. But it's not the cassette, it's not even the special. It's the memories that I associate with it. So, yeah. Of the top 5 things I got this year, this is one of them. So after I take a moment to recompose myself, we'll move on to the next one. So, stay tuned, be right back. Alright, sorry about that, just, anyway, if I think too much on it, I'm going to start crying again, so we're not going to worry about that. The next of the top 5 things that I picked up this year is this right over here, if I can find it without looking. This cheap plastic glow-in-the-dark Halloween mask. Now, I think I mentioned in the video where I found this, why it is that I have such an appreciation for it. And for those of you who haven't seen it, links right up here. But, just, as I stated in that video, my brother had this exact mask back when we were growing up. Same kind of cheap, kind of hard plastic vinyl with the cool lenticular skulls for the eyeballs. And, well, when that mask went the way of those videotapes that I was talking about previously, again, I didn't really think too much of it. I really wanted to get another copy of this mask just because, well, it's a really cool mask. I mean, check him out. He's got the skull thing going on. He's got like this kind of crooked grin. Got the teeth missing over here. Just a, excuse me, just a very cool Halloween mask. And I wanted very much to replace the one that I had. And I was looking online. Well, actually, no, I wasn't looking online. I've been hoping to find it out in the wild, like thrift shopping like I do on occasion. And just, it never showed up. In the years since that other mask, vanished from my ownership, I could not find one. And then this year, for some reason, the Goodwill gods were like, here you go. And so, that's a big part of the reason why this one makes my, I guess we would call this number 4, because that tape was number 5, I guess. Or it was number 1. Like I said, there's no order to this. But that is one of the reasons, that is the main reason why this mask is so special to me. Just the association with the Halloweens wearing this. This was the other mask I had of this was actually one of my very first Halloween masks that I ever got to wear. I remember we were having a trick-or-treat thing in some early school grade, and I remember the entire class, everyone lining up out on the basketball court, walking around the outside edge of the basketball court, or not basketball court, the concrete basketball play area behind the school. And we all just marched in a line around the outside of that, and then marched back into the school, and then I believe we did a little bit of trick-or-treating. Like we'd go up to the teachers wearing our costumes, go, trick-or-treat. And I remember wearing this mask, even though I was just a little bitty kid, with like this giant mask on my face. Just going, trick-or-treat. Because if I remember correctly, like my chin and like my entire mouth and everything was like right here in the nose area, because this thing was literally just hanging off of my face. But anyway, I just really wanted to get another one of these, and like I said, I could not find one for the longest time, and then this year, when I went Halloween hunting, I finally found one. So, moving on, and this time I don't have to do a cut to recompose myself because, emotions. Let's see. We'll go ahead and put you in a nice safe place right up there. Alright, I would say that the third item... Ah, there you are. One moment. The third of my top 5 things that I got this year... Excuse me. I just drank a lot of water, so I'm a little bit gassy, apparently. But this is one of the very first items that I got this year. I think I picked him up in February. Oh, and he's got a spider web on his face. He's got a bunch of spider webs on his face. Anyway, this guy was one of the very first things that I picked up this year. And I had been after one of these guys for the longest time, and if you want to check it out, I have a video posted right up here. But I just really wanted to get one of these because, for one thing, it's a hard to find puppet, and for another thing, you know, it's a pretty cool looking dummy. Watch what you say there, friendo. Very cool looking puppet. That's better. Anyway, so when I finally found one, because, allow me to rephrase this. I was able to find a few of these over the years on Facebook Marketplace, and the prices were just not right. Then this guy finally shows up at the beginning of the year, like the perfect price, and it was close enough that I didn't have to, you know, pay for shipping. I was able to actually go meet up with the seller, and bring him home that day, which was another great plus. So I'm just very happy to own this particular puppet. So let's see now. Oh, obviously, for those who may not have picked up on it, this is the hard-to-find Juro Novelty Company Headstick Danny ODay Ventriloquist puppet. Which, for some reason, on these puppets, they decided to put the string coming out of the back of his head, like with the little ventriloquist dolls. Which makes it a bit awkward to try and use him while his head's in the body, because, like, you pull on the string, and then his mouth gets stuck open because it's being held in place by the neck hole. Anyway, yeah. So I guess this would be number 3 of my top 5. And for good reason. Yes, indeed, Danny, and for good reason. Alright, so we're going to set him aside, and I will figure out the next thing that was on my top 5 list. So for the number 4 and or number 2 spot of the things that I picked up this year are my McDonald's Halloween pails of the Mick Witch. Like, this one doesn't actually have an official name, but the collecting community has just dubbed her the Mick Witch because, you know, McDonald's and she's a witch. Makes sense. And I believe I went over in that video the main reason why I was so happy to get these. But it's another nostalgia, another memory-based thing. Back when I was a kid, my family had a bunch of these. They had, like, the pumpkins, they had the ghosts, they had the witch. I believe we had both styles of this one. Like, you know, the more happy, like, the one with the pupils that they released later. And the original one like this, where she's got, like, the inverted version of her face over here. And we had a bunch of these things. We would put them out around the house, like literally outside around the house. And we would fill them with gravel so they wouldn't get blown away or anything during the, during the season. And when we had to leave that house, the huge trash bag we had that was full of these, because another little story, my grandmother liked to spoil my brother rotten, and one of the things she would do to spoil him is she would get him McDonald's a lot, which is how we got so many of these silly buckets. I don't know the exact number, but I think it was between 20 and 30 of these, so you can kind of figure out just how many Happy Meals my brother had. And for the longest time, I wanted to get the witch again, because for whatever reason, she was always my favorite. I don't know if it was because of the spider in her hair. Let me move the handle so you can see it better. I don't know if it was just the friendly face or the fact that it was green. But I just really liked this one. And for some stupid reason, I could never find the witch. I could barely find the other pails out in the wild. Like, over the course of the last 5 years, before I got the little collection of these... Where are you looking, ladies? Look at the camera. There we go. For the longest time when I was trying to find these, I found, I believe, out in the wild, in a random thrift store, I found a McPumpkin, or a McPumpkin. At a Goodwill, several years later, I found, I believe it was another McPumpkin. And then at a local collectibles shop, I found the third one that I was able to come across in about the course of 5 years was this little goober right here. And those were the only ones I could find out in the wild. Because I really wanted to find one of those witches at like a Goodwill. And I was stubborn. I was like, I'm not paying eBay prices, even though eBay prices were fairly reasonable back then. But I was like, I'm not paying eBay prices. I'm not going to wait for shipping. I want to be able to go out to the thrift store, find it sitting on a shelf, go, hey, I remember you. Go up to the register, pay some money, and bring it home that day. So then we fast forward to, like I was saying before, earlier this year, back when I was like really, and I mean really, hardcore looking for stuff on Facebook Marketplace, which I have still been doing. And some seller finally had a small collection of these Halloween pails. They had, like I just showed, both the witches. They had 2 of the original pails from 1986. They had a couple from the 90s where they had the cookie cutter lids. And of course they had the apparently hard to find vinyl Halloween bags. They were missing the witch from that set, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, but then I finally found these. But since I already went over that story in the video where I was talking about these, and I've already just reiterated the entire story right here, we'll just move on from the McWitch Pumpkin Pails. McWitch Halloween Pails. And I think I'm also going to take a page from those other YouTubers, and instead of just jumping straight into the #1 spot, I think we're at that point now. Hold on. The videotape, the mask, the puppet. Yes. Okay. So instead of just jumping straight into the #1 spot, here's a few honorable mentions. Again, in no particular order. Okay. So it might be a little bit of a shock to y'all, but I am a bit of a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Again, this might be a shock to some of you more recent subscribers, but if I just take the camera here, if I just turn y'all's attention over to the other half of my room, all of those shelves are filled with the original 1988 to 1997 line of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures from Playmates Toys. So, yeah. Oh, and also we've got Krang's android body over here, and movie star Donatello, the giant size action figures, and we got more giant Ninja Turtle action figures up there, and there's even more out of frame up top. But like I was saying, it might come as a little bit of a surprise to some of you newer subscribers, but I'm a big fan of that action figure line and that series in general. So earlier this year, I've been again, using Facebook Marketplace, branching out and trying to get like all these different random things that aren't just action figures and toys. Stuff like books, like party supplies, Christmas ornaments, anything I can get my hands on that's Ninja Turtles related, I'll try and buy. And one thing that I got earlier this year, I think I've still got at least one more, one more link I can post up here, and if I do, this is going to be the last link. I picked up some Ninja Turtle costume stuff. Like, back in the day, this is what was referred to as roleplay kind of costumes and stuff. And mixed in with that lot was a vintage 1990, I want to say, let me double check, 1988 Ninja Turtles Leonardo vinyl Halloween mask. Now, to a lot of you, it's just like, okay, that's nice. But for me, I've been wanting to get one of the Halloween masks for a long time. Granted, I wanted to get one of the, not Ben Cooper, it might be Ben Cooper, but one of the actual like big Halloween masks that was like made out of rubber and looked actually more like the movie Ninja Turtles. This one obviously is based off one of the action figures, or so it would seem. I was very happy to pick this up along with all the other stuff. So that makes the first of my honorable mentions. Let's move on to the next one. Keeping with the theme of my ventriloquial stuff, another item that I picked up, part of my honorable mentions collection here, is Post-Mortimer Snurd. Now, I believe I mentioned when I first did a video unboxing this thing that the whole reason why I have this particular puppet head is because there was another YouTuber, Justice Curry, who was showing off all this stuff that he had purchased, because he's one of those guys who buys big lots of old action figures and toys and stuff and resells them for money and, you know, for his collection and his hobby. And for whatever reason, he happened to pick up this head in a lot with a bunch of other stuff. So I messaged him because the video he had posted about it was less than a week old. I think it was only a few days at that point. And I was just like, hey, is that thing still for sale? And obviously I didn't hear back from him right away. But like within an hour or two, he messaged me back saying, yeah, it's still available. And, you know, we chit-chatted back and forth. And over the course of another week, I think it was, because I didn't quite have the money at the time to pick it up, just because, you know, bills and all that to get in the way. The whole adulting BS that likes to rear its ugly head and get in the middle of all your fun. But because of that, it took me about a week to actually fully pay for this thing. I paid for the shipping with the first payment, and then I actually paid for the thing itself. Again, y'all probably don't even care about that. But Post-Mortimer here became mine after a bit of time. And there's just something about the look of these older ventriloquist figures, because I believe I said in that video, you can actually go out right now and purchase from throwthings.com basically this exact Mortimer Snurd, as I showed in that video. But there's something about the old ones, like this head right here, I'm gonna guess is, you know, just because of the wear and tear and the age on it, it's got to be from at least the 1970s, because they first released this particular Mortimer Snurd puppet in 1968, I want to say. But like I was saying, there's just something about that. Just you can't replicate this look. Well, I mean, you can try, but you can't get it just exactly like this. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, Post-Mortimer here, get it post-mortem-er? Past death? Anyway. That's why he's one of my honorable mentions for this particular video. Alright, Mortimer, let's go ahead and put you down, and I will bring up the next of my honorable mentions. Let's bring up the next one. Jumping back onto the bandwagon of the McDonald's Halloween pails, I have in my possession one that I'm not going to talk about too much because I have a very specific video in mind for this. I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and all other configurations of being, this pail. Now, a lot of you may be going, yeah, whatever, it's just a, it's just a Goblin Pale. Not so. You see, to give a brief little history on this, because like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail. I've got a specific video in mind for this that, will require me to give more detail at that time. But in 1985, yes, 1985, McDonald's did a test run of their Halloween pails. Essentially, in like New York and a couple of other places, they actually sent these to different McDonald's locations just to, to make sure there was an actual market for it, that people were actually going to buy these. And so, obviously, the initial test worked out fairly well, and McDonald's wound up pushing a bunch of these. And one of the things they did as part of this test market is they gave buckets with two separate names. Like, this city, you know, a couple of McDonald's in this city would get buckets with McGoblin. Another city would get ones with the name McJack. And now, because of that, because it was such a small radius in which they actually, you know, put out these particular buckets, they're a bit harder to find. And by some grace of the universe, I actually found a McJack. Now, like I was saying before with the McWitch Pails, I had been wanting to get some of these for a long time, because I had learned about these way back when I was still trying to get my hands on some McDonald's buckets, but couldn't find the blasted things. And I found out about the McJack Pail and all that, but it was so long ago that it, you know, just kind of slipped my mind. Fast forward to this year, and while I was perusing Facebook Marketplace, trying to track some down, you know, trying to track down any of the McDonald's pails, I saw this face, obviously. I think the lid was on it, but they had like a front and back view. It was either that or the lid was off of it, and because the plastic is so thin, I could see the name printed on the back here from the front. And I realized something in me was like, hey, that's not a normal, that's not the usual kind, that's special. Let's buy it. And so I got in contact with the seller, and the seller lived fairly far away. I think it was almost an hour and a half, if not actually an hour and a half. So the seller and I made the arrangement. I went to where they were. They sold me this, along with a couple of other McDonald's collectibles. And now I own one of the test market McDonald's Halloween pails. Alright, now with that out of the way, move on to the last of my honorable mentions, and then we'll get on to the last of the actual top 5 things that I purchased this year, that I picked up. So, uno momentations, everyone. Now, it's kind of interesting, honestly it's really interesting, that my year started off picking up that head stick Danny ODay ventriloquist puppet I showed you at the beginning of this video, or a little while ago. And my year, collectibles-wise, ended off with me getting his little brother, the other version of the Danny ODay ventriloquist puppet. And this little goober right here has been a bit of a prankster. And I mean this legitimately. This isn't me, you know, doing one of my skits like, you know, with Slappy or Bozo or any of my usual puppets. If any of y'all happened to be watching my Thankmas streams, I believe it was day 5, where I finally got this guy in the mail after, yet again, purchasing him from Facebook Marketplace from a seller on there. Within 40 minutes of me pulling little Danny here out of the box that he was in, the string of Christmas lights behind me burnt out. And this one's got something kind of special. Now, before I actually take it out of the box, I want y'all to see what I'm seeing. So I lift up the box, and there we have it. My latest acquisition, in a little bit of a need of repair, but we'll figure that out. We'll sort that out real quick. See, I'm getting nervous, so I'm starting to slip up. I meant to put the mask on, but I didn't. Oh man, my Christmas lights just died. Boo, there goes half of the atmosphere in the room. That really kind of sucks. Oh well, at least we still have the fiber optic tree keeping everything nice and holly and jolly. And then, several hours later, the entire stream came to a halt because something messed up the Wi-Fi on my computer. Like, it literally turned off the Wi-Fi and just shut down the stream entirely, making me have to go through a bunch of hoops and stuff to get it going again. Okay, good. Mangle left. Balloon Boy's not there. Audio mixer Okay, there we go. All right. Hello, everyone. I don't know who's already clicked back onto the stream. Regardless, I'm back. Honest to God, I have no idea what just happened there. And I'm fairly certain it was this. It was either this little puppet or something associated with him. But since I purchased him, and I actually did some repair work, because for those of you who were not at the stream, the mouth was just stuck hanging open like this, actually like all the way open. So what I wound up doing was I replaced the non-existent rubber band that was supposed to be in the mouth with a with a spring. And then I reattached the string and got everything working again the way it's supposed to. And I actually cleaned him up, made sure his head was nice and clean, used a couple of Clorox wipes, got all the dust and dings and dirt and stuff I could off of there. And so far, fingers crossed, nothing else has happened since then, and hopefully nothing else does happen. But as of right now, things are good. Little Danny here, or if there was a spirit attached to him or some kind of energy or what have you, it seems to be appeased at this point because, I actually put in the effort and fixed his mouth and made him look nice again. So, wish me luck, folks. Now then, now that I've spoken about all of the honorable mentions and the other 4 of my top 5 items from this particular year, we can move on to the number 1. Yeah, like I said, there's no particular order, but this would count as my number 1. Excuse me, Danny. Just going to put you back where I picked you up from. All the way over there. Alright. So, this is another twofer. Like I was saying about the, the Mick Witch buckets. This one counted as 1 item. And the next 2 are just the same. Because earlier this year, I managed to pick up another couple of items for my Ninja Turtle collection. So, as I was saying earlier, or as I pointed out earlier, they made like these big versions of the Ninja Turtles figures and stuff back in the day. And they also made big versions of a couple of the bad guys from back then. Those bad guys being Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, these 2 right here, because Ninja Turtles collecting kind of blew up in the last couple of years, ever since a certain disease decided to run rampant and kind of ruin the world a lot, a lot of people started getting into collecting and getting into hobbies like that, and one of the things they started collecting hardcore were the Ninja Turtles. And because of that nonsense, prices on most Ninja Turtle stuff flew up, like straight up to the ceiling. We're talking, for those of you familiar with anime and My Neighbor Totoro, you remember the scene where Totoro and the other little sprites and May and her older sister were doing that thing where they had like their umbrellas and they were making the seeds grow, and then they made like a giant tree? The Ninja Turtles collecting thing, the prices were right about where the little seedlings were when they started doing that. By the time that by this point in time right now, the year 2022, we're about at the point where they had made the giant tree. The prices are in the skyline up there with the leaves on the top of the tree. So, the prices on these guys are no exception. With their accessories, they only came with 1 accessory each, which was their primary weapon. Thankfully, I had the gun for this guy already, but I did not have his particular weapon. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here a little bit. So, imagine my surprise when I'm doing my Facebook Marketplace shopping, as usual, and I spot these 2 right here for $40. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, what's weird about that? This guy right here by himself, without his accessory, can fetch you over $100 up to $200 for this. If he's got the accessory, he can go up to like 400, and if he's in the box, he can go up to like 600 bucks. Same applies to this guy, but he actually goes for a bit more with his accessory because for whatever reason, his accessory is a lot harder to find than his. So the fact I was able to find both of these guys for 40 bucks from the same seller, the same lot, kind of blew my mind at the time. And because of that, I just could not turn down the deal. And these guys are in fantastic condition. Like, Rocksteady here has got a scuff on him somewhere, I think. It was either him or Bebop, which is like a paint mark from a Donatello bow staff smacking into him at some point over the years. But beyond that, their paint is like almost perfect. The only real problem with them is because, well, they're made of an older plastic, and for some stupid reason, unfortunately, a lot of the plastics that Playmates used back in the 90s have gotten to the point now where they're kind of sticky. So that's the only problem with these guys, is just the fact that they've taken on that sticky nature. Beyond that, and a couple of paint scuffs, they are in fantastic condition. And the fact that I already had his weapon was a major plus. Now I just need to track down his weapon, and I'm not too fussed about it. If I can find it, awesome. If I can't, then I can't. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this video, and for this year. So, on behalf of myself, all my collectibles, and our new little friend Danny over here, we want to say, have a happy new year, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Later! N-E-S-T-L-E-S, Nestle's Next Latest Chocolate. Later.